Right then, so you would see from the title, we've got something extra special today. I have an interview with someone, well, again, you saw from the title, but none other than the brand new Pinhead, Paul T. Taylor. You would know him from Hellraiser Judgment. Yeah, I mean, it's the man himself, Payne, the lead Cenobite, Mr. Pinhead. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
This Mr. H.
Yeah, it's a little bit awkward because obviously we've just been speaking prior to doing the intro, so it gets ultra kind of formal now.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, do you want to just introduce yourself to the subscribers? This is a bit of a surprise to everyone, so I thought I'd just let you kind of introduce yourself and see a little bit more of your background.
Yes, absolutely. And the key being a little bit more, because I can go on and on, so I'm just going to try to keep it brief. My name is Paul T. Taylor. I live in Dallas, Texas, USA, and I've been an actor for about 35 years. Got the role of Pinhead 2 years ago. Just sort of dropped into my lap amazingly. It's the freakiest, most wonderful thing that's ever happened to me because I've been a horror fan since I was born.
Quite a long time.
And it's just, Pinhead is absolutely my favorite. So, yeah, I've mostly been a theater actor. My first film, though, was Sin City. That also just, my agent said one day, you want to drive down to Austin to audition for a Robert Rodriguez film? And I said, well, of course I do. and I got a small, non-speaking, but still, I have screen time in that one. And it's very cool. I mean, I'm recognizable, and that was a huge deal, because obviously that was a multi-million-dollar film, so that was very cool. And just here and there, I've done films over the last several years. I took kind of a break due to illness from in the early 2000s to about 2008. I was pretty sick, so then something like that. And then I came back and started working on my health again, and this opportunity dropped into my lap. So it's been quite a ride. And here I am. I'm Pinhead. I am the Hell Priest.
Well, I won't pry, obviously, into any kind of health issues there. But in terms of you said you've been a horror fan for forever. Since you were born. What was your first experience with the Hellraiser series, or I guess now a franchise? I don't know where they draw the line on calling it a franchise, but
I am sure that my first experience was in a theater watching the first film. I don't remember much about it. I was kind of a wild youth, and let's see, how old was I in '87? Yeah, I was pretty much in the throes of, let's just say, ecstasy and agony back then. I was quite a party boy, so I don't remember exactly the circumstances. I'm sure I was a bit altered when I saw it, but it just, much like when I saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show for the first time, it just blew me away, and my eyes couldn't close. That was not. I mean, the first horror film I ever saw was probably Trilogy of Terror with Karen Black when I was a kid on TV, just home alone one Saturday night. That terrified me. I wasn't allowed to see a lot of horror films as a kid because most of them were rated R, and my parents were very strict in the middle of Kansas. They were strict about those MPAA ratings, so didn't get to see The Shining. I didn't get to see The Exorcist till I was in college. Horrible. I had such a horrible youth. I was so abused.
So you might say Hellraiser. You watched Hellraiser a bit altered, but it altered you. You might say.
Yeah, it's so because I've never seen anything quite so graphic and so beautifully done. And of course, Pinhead is there, and the female all the Cenobites, and that fantastic transformation of Frank from the floorboards into his, bloody form. It was nothing like that had ever been seen, at least not by me, on screens before. And
so I was literally just about to ask you about the Frank scene, because that's the scene which I did a review, like a retrospective of Hellraiser fairly recently, and I remember saying in that review myself that scene, in my eyes, it is a little bit dated, but even to today's standard, the special effects are still quite solid, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
And it's a scene...
The fact that... Yeah, I do too. I agree. The fact that they're real effects, and that some producer saw the film and said, you know what, we need to put some more money into this movie and do this scene, which is brilliant. And with that score, that music,
so good.
This movie is just. I wish that it could have been used in Hellraiser Judgment, but I'm sure that was going to be too expensive, considering the Weinsteins don't own the rights to the first film. I don't think they do. So, so that wasn't going to happen, but. Yeah, that it's incredible. The puppetry in that movie, and I can see why Gary Tunnicliffe saw that first film and was like, "Oh my God, I want to do that! I'm moving to LA right now." So, I can see it all happening.
So what would you say kind of sticks out to you the most about the first film? What is it that it kind of resonated with you when you saw it, I guess?
The Julia is what resonates. I mean, the cold murderess with the hammer. I mean, she was just such a monster, and beautiful, and just deserved everything she got. I just and the dubbed voice of Frank. That's. Is amusing to me, but and then those few glimpses of Pinhead, lead Cenobite, those few glimpses of Cenobite where you're just like, what is that? Who is that guy? I mean, he was just so beautiful, and perfect, just perfect. I think that's. Yeah, those are the things and of course the puzzle box.
The lament configuration, awesome.
The lament configuration, all the new things just that you'd never seen before. And I don't think I had read the book. That was my first exposure to Clive Barker was that movie. I hadn't read any of his novels because I didn't know him as a writer in the middle of Kansas. I mean, I don't think any Clive Barker was probably in the Bueller High School, So I hadn't read any of that stuff. I didn't know about horror fiction. I read The Shining. No, wait, no. I read The Exorcist when the movie came out because I could read the book, and even that terrified me. But I think reading the book of The Exorcist was my first experience with printed horror. Anyway, yeah.
This series has gone on for a really, really long time now.
Yes.
What ones out of the 10 have you seen?
I've seen all of them.
So you've seen your own movie then? You've seen yourself?
I have seen it, yes. I have seen Judgment.
I bet that is a warped experience, kind of seeing yourself, especially with the dubbed over voice.
Yeah, but it's not dubbed. It is simply altered. I don't know if that's what you mean.
Sorry. That is what I mean.
No, that's okay, because in Revelations, the guy was completely dubbed by another voiceover artist.
Oh, God, that film. Don't get me started on that film.
Yikes, I got hives. Yeah, they did alter my voice. I like what I sound like, but at the same time, I think it was overly processed.
I quite liked it, actually.
They're good. I mean, a lot of people are liking it. And they're like saying, "Oh my God, you nailed the voice." I'm like, well, I played the role and I did the act, and I did the work as an actor. I don't think it needed to be quite that. But I do love. At the same time, if people are liking it and think it's chilling, then that's really the bottom line. It just seems like with Doug Bradley's work, it was never altered quite that much. I don't know if it was or not. Of course, he also has an incredibly distinctive voice, and there's just some you can't impersonate. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody who could impersonate, or just happens to sound like Doug Bradley, but his voice, is incredible, and I don't know how much they tweaked it or not. I hopefully will be meeting him. I mean, I've heard him speak, of course, without alteration, but I hopefully will be meeting him in March at Texas Frightmare weekend in Dallas, Texas. So that'll be fun.
I think Clive Barker's supposed to be attending that as well, isn't he?
I hope he makes it. Yes, that would be such an honor. Would love to meet him as well.
So what out of the series is your favourite then? What's the peak of Hellraiser in your eyes? This is like the $1 million question. This one.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many opinions, but it would have to be either one or two. I think the combination of the two together, really, because they're the original vision. 3 is some people's favorite. I think 3 was a little too over the top.
Oh dear, okay, yeah. So you're a man after my own heart then. So similarly, I look at 1. If you're looking at like narrative and story and stuff, I like the second one. I think is probably a fantastic movie, but it relies on what the first one opened up to be what it was. So I can't say that the second one is the better movie, only because without the first one, you wouldn't have that movie in any way.
Exactly. You could watch the two together as a mini series. I mean, very short miniseries, but yeah, they go together beautifully. And then number 3 is kind of like, okay, this is completely different. Where are we in Manhattan? I don't know where we are, but
oh dear, hell on earth, hell in New York, more like. God damn.
Yeah. Then number 4, Jason takes Manhattan. Pinhead takes Manhattan. Who's got to take Manhattan? Did Freddy ever take Manhattan?
Oh dear.
But obviously we know that a lot of the sequels that were written were not originally the films, and so we go. But the fact that this was a narrative from 1 to 2, and it followed the formula, and Pinhead was the same character in 2 that he was in 1, and hadn't been, sort of broadened. It's really, to get back to that, and I love it when people who have seen Judgment, they write that, it's obvious that Gary is making an effort to get back to Pinhead being what he was before breakout role, where he was impartial. I'm saying that I don't think Judgment completely does that, because how do you do that just suddenly?
Yeah.
But
definitely.
That original concept of him just being impartial and giving you the experience you think you've asked for because of the duration. That's the bottom line. But at the same time, I understand how the studio was like, we gotta do something. Let's do something. We're gonna star Pinhead in these movies. He's the breakout role. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to get back to that original. An actual reboot could just be done. Just an actual remake, that would do it. But then what do you do with all that history? I don't know.
Well, yeah. So I mean, let's talk about Judgment then. So you've seen the film. I've seen the film. I've done a review on it, and what I found most interesting. I mean, look, I like the film. I thought it was great. In my eyes, I looked at it as a soft reboot, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Not a clear-cut continuation, but also still trying to separate itself somewhat, because there is an expansion to the mythos and all of that. And a lot of people, it's getting kind of mixed. I mean, it is getting mixed reviews, definitely.
Oh.
I've seen some people absolutely slam it, and I said this in my review. Like I completely on a level. My initial response when I finished that movie was, I don't know if I like this film or not, and I had to I went out for a drive and kind of drove around for a little bit to try and process it, and I was like, actually,
yeah.
If I'm looking at it subjectively, I have to remove my fan bias from the original movies to go, actually, no, this is more of a soft reboot. This is taking what we know, but kind of moving it along a little bit and in somewhat of a different direction, but not a bad direction, just somewhere a little bit away from what was originally presented in the films, but is more going towards what was presented in the books, I think, anyway. especially with the likes of, you know, an actual kind of Christian God and hell, because that is more, you know, in kind of the Scarlet Gospels, there's Satan, right? So,
right.
You know, when I looked at it like that, then that's when I went, actually, no, you know, I can kind of see this as removing my fan bias. I go, well, actually, no, I enjoyed this a lot more. And then, again, I don't want to overrun this interview because, you know, people come to my channel to hear my voice. They're coming to this to hear you. But looking at it more like a soft reboot and then removing my fan bias, and I compared it more to the first one, because a lot of people say, like, again, because I put the review out and there's a lot of comments that come through, and a lot of people are saying, oh, but Pinhead's barely in it. Yeah, but he's barely in the first one.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. To me, if you look at it, you know, as a clear-cut comparison, although Judgment's not perfect, although I still like it, it's more like the first one than any of the movies have been. Absolutely any of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean... No, please, sorry.
Well, and I think that comes straight from Gary Tunnicliffe, you know, because he is he loves Clive Barker's work. He's obviously very studied in the writings of Clive Barker. So, yeah, the fact that these I don't want to say, well, they are demons, but the fact that these demons are in these small chambers, that's straight from the Scarlet Gospels. The fact that he's expanded on the mythos and created his own thing. I mean, this mythos is not directly from the Scarlet Gospels, but he definitely has gone to another place. And let's really look at this. Let's go ahead and expand this, because I think we've gotten as far as we can with the franchise, and we've gotten away from the original works too much. So, you know, the way that Judgment ends, even that could be setting us up for a perfect sort of reset of the franchise with this expanded mythos, but also with what happens to Pinhead. What happens in Hellraiser Judgment to Pinhead is it's not like what happens in Hellraiser 2, but at the end of Hellraiser 2, it's a different reason for this thing. No spoilers, but this thing that happens to Pinhead. It's a perfect reason to bring that character back with the same lack of ego, perhaps, that he had in the first film, and just go, you know, you've been slapped on the wrist. Okay, now do your job and stop. You know, you are not completely in charge. There is the Leviathan is in charge of you, and God is over all of that, and et cetera, et cetera. I really think that it's deep, and with a bigger budget, of course, it could have been much deeper. It could have been a longer movie, and perhaps could have expanded on that part of the mythos, and the detective story would have been not quite as much in the forefront, although it does sort of drive the plot of the movie. There's this other story going on with introducing the audience to this new faction, which I think is fascinating personally, and really cool. And the fact that we work in tandem, you know, I have the blue lighting, you have the amber lighting, but we work towards the same goals. I just think that Gary knows what he's doing as far as setting this up. What can happen next? Then, of course, there's a couple other thoughts. You could go with what the comic books have done. Completely bring a Pinhead type character back. Make it a female. I don't know. Make it. You could do something else. A lot of fans are like, let's just get rid of Pinhead altogether. I'm not for that, of course, but let's have a female, or just anybody can be this character. So let's get somebody else with the lines cut in their head and the pins, you know, because it's a position that this person has been put into years ago, or even the offshoot of like, okay, here's Judgment, and here's the Auditor, and here's this world. Let's do a movie of just that world. I mean, that could also happen. So many things could happen from Hellraiser Judgment, and you can't say that about Revelations. You can't. I mean, you could. I don't know. You can't say that about.
You definitely can't say that for Revelations.
Sorry, I keep saying that. But I personally, I think Revelations has some qualities that I like, but I'm not going to go into that. I don't want to go into it. But, I think that if Gary had directed it, perhaps it would have been it could have been a better movie. I don't know. It was also the budgetary. Anyway, we're not talking about that. So yeah, I think that Judgment, while not perfect, and for whatever reasons, it's not perfect, but mostly I think it's budget, actually.
Yeah, film is subjective anyway. I think.
Yeah, it's a fan film too. I mean, Gary, this is an expensive, for as far as fan films go. This is a very expensive fan film by a hardcore, really knows what he's talking about fan.
So, I don't know if you're allowed to say any of this because I haven't managed to find the budget fully online, but it was somewhere in the region of $500,000. Is that right?
Well, I hear mixed. It depends on who you ask. But Gary has said publicly that it was a $350,000 film. IMDb says it's a $500,000 film. I thought it was a $500,000 film. So I'm not exactly sure.
Well, it could be even less then, really.
Who knows what it was? Wow. I just know that it wasn't much.
And were the rumors about the because I heard that there was only a month to film. Are you allowed to say whether that was the case or?
No, that's what Gary. Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
It was a month. It was more than they had for the previous film, but more time. But there was a lot of prep time. That was the difference. Gary gets to have a lot of prep time, and he used so many of his own resources. Everything that's built on that stage and the makeups and everything was built by Gary in his studio. The typewriter, everything, he did it. He and Mike Regan, who was his second hand, whatever you call it, a brilliant man who is still in LA, who built makeups and effects and toys and all kinds of wonderful things.
So I guess I kind of, again, I'm not overly sure kind of how much you're allowed to say, but right. I've got you on Skype, so I'm gonna get into the nitty gritty of it and at least try. But what did Gary tell you any of the kind of, when taking on the role of Pinhead, were you advised of this particular incarnation's backstory? Because obviously, in my eyes, I looked at it and said that it was a soft reboot and that was not Elliot Spencer, but a brand new incarnation. Whether it was, the kind of mantle of Hell Priest and you had a human form in the past or not. I left it as I had absolutely no idea, but I looked at it and said that was definitely not Elliot Spencer. It was a brand new thing, basically. So, were you advised of any of that as kind of character motivations or?
Not advised. No. It's not Elliot Spencer. Necessarily. It's kind of strange. As far as the backstory goes, who knows what this Hell Priest was before? It's a different costume. Maybe Pinhead just wanted to change it up a bit, so that's why it's different. I have no idea. Let's get rid of the nipple things and the navel thing, and let's just give me a big old gash in my chest. I don't think so, because obviously when you're created into something by Leviathan, then you don't have a choice. This is what you look like because of your own particular desires. Maybe he was a heart surgeon. Who knows? I don't know. But the way that I just went with the script, basically. And I also went with the fact that at the end of Hellraiser 2, the lead Cenobite does not know who he was before. He's completely forgotten it. I just went with that. The ego has taken over. The memory from 30 years ago has been forgotten. And when what happens at the end happens, is this the actual original form? Or is this just the punishment?
See, that's what because I did a video on it, or I attempted to do a video on it anyway. Basically the ending kind of explained. It wasn't. It was me just kind of babbling a bunch of my thoughts.
That's all I could really do too, because I even in the script, I don't know if this is a spoiler alert time, whatever. Even in the script, the name of the character is changed for that one scene. Yeah. So I just looked at that, but it's not a person's name. It's just Everyman.
Right.
So
okay.
it's kind of like this, the worst punishment you could ever have.
It's just to be the Everyman.
To this is to be this.
Yeah.
And I don't. When I first read the script, it freaked me out a bit because I didn't read the full script until after I said yes, I'll take the role when it was offered, of course. And then I get the script and I'm like, oh my God, they killed Kenny. But I texted the casting director, and he said, no, I don't see that at all. That's not what they're doing here. This is completely, because you can't have the franchise without Pinhead. And I'm like, okay, I'll just believe that, and I'll just go with that. So I didn't concentrate on trying to create a backstory. I just went with, this is a man in complete anguish. And it was me. It was just, this is what I'm playing, because it's such a short scene. I was like, this is just me, Paul T. Taylor, in complete anguish, stripped of everything. And that's what gave me the emotional stuff that I needed to go with on that scene. And I mean, that I don't know if people are going to accuse me of being a bad actor and slap my hand for that, but I just went with, this guy has no memory.
I thought it was a great performance at the end. I didn't think it was bad at all, to be perfectly honest. See, kind of going back to, and I don't want to kind of flip-flop too much, but going back to some of the reviews, some people, I don't think they can kind of remove Doug Bradley from the character of Pinhead, and in my eyes, it's a character that is, yes, Doug Bradley's played him, and absolutely fantastic, irreplaceable.
Absolutely.
But you're not replacing him. It's merely a mantle in that universe that anyone can hold.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so
if I think that may be why I had a new costume design, because we weren't saying, they didn't put me in that costume on purpose. And I don't know if it was budgetary. I don't think it was. I think it was actually Gary's choice to go, because I remember the first time he showed me, the first time I tried on the costume before it was actually finished, and he said, Leviathan. He just pointed at the shape and said, Order of the Gash. I'm like, of course, gash. There's a big old gash there, and it's the shape of Leviathan. And I think that's very cool. He really put so much thought into it and did what he wanted to do. And so that is what separates me. And I think that was really smart.
Yeah, definitely.
Perhaps there was a Doug Bradley-esque costume with a neck that didn't fit so well. and it just didn't, it was like, we can't, I think it was smart. I think it was smart to do that. Now, this, obviously, we've already discussed what has happened to the character in Hellraiser Judgment at the end. Sort of discussed around it, because you don't want to give away spoilers, but that really sets up whatever's next. So whatever's next could be Doug Bradley, could be that costume, could be whatever.
So have you?
And I think that's what was the intention.
Are you privy to anything that may be going on next? I mean,
absolutely not. I know nothing.
Damn it.
I'm thrilled at the response of many Hellraiser fans of my performance and of the film and where they rank it and all that kind of thing. That was my biggest victory. If it's a victory, that's the thing I was worried about the most. So to know that I am being accepted by these so many hardcore Hellraiser fans who are Doug Bradley, just hardcore Doug Bradley fans, and yet saying, but this guy works in the role. that is huge to me because I've been, waiting for this movie to be released for 2 years. So for that to finally happen, it's such a relief, and that's going to change my life for the better. Whether that means more Hellraiser films for me, or whether it just means more film offers for me, it's better and it's good.
Yeah.
I really, many people have asked me, and this may be one of your questions, but I'm just going to volunteer it. If I were asked to do another Hellraiser film, I would immediately say yes. But if there was a big budget remake starring Doug Bradley, I would applaud that. Yeah. Because that would re-energize the franchise again, win new fans, make the old fans just pee their pants, and that doesn't mean that I would never play Pinhead again. It just means that it would re-energize the franchise. So, but I'm just trying to put it out there in the universe that, the answer is yes. I need only be asked.
Just a quick phone call. Do you want to? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Of course. Of course I will. Of course I will.
I mean, from a personal perspective, if there was another Hellraiser after Hellraiser Judgment, which inevitably there's going to be, just with how kind of Dimension films, treat this property, they always want to keep the rights. So inevitably there will be one. I mean, I would imagine anyway. I'd be very surprised if there isn't. And from a personal perspective, I would love to see you back in the role of Pinhead with not necessarily more kind of screen time, a little bit more, and this isn't like it sounds like an insult on your sounds like an insult on your performance, but it's not. But
no, I understand. Too much. It's like Gary put it. He said, "Too many Cenobites is too much icing on the cake." And what happens when you have too much icing? You get sick. So that's kind of his.
Yeah,
that's the way he put it to me.
I think I would love to see you back in the role with a little bit more screen time, but with a little bit more to do in that screen time.
Yeah.
A little bit more kind of, impactful kind of moments. Yeah. Just from a personal perspective, I wouldn't begrudge that at all.
Glad to hear that. I mean, I did have one more scene. Well, it was just originally that dream sequence where Chatterer comes in and pours the hot oil into Sean's. Oh, spoiler! Anyway, there's a dream sequence.
It's in the trailer, I think, so it's fine.
It was originally going to be Pinhead, but I think that to give Chatterer more to do, they moved it to him. And when I see the film, I'm glad, because it's like, well, Chatterer works for Pinhead, so Pinhead sent Chatterer to do this. So I thought that was cool. And plus the shot of Chatterer's face through the eye hole of the mask is amazing. So that too was very cool. Loved it.
So I kind of want to touch back on Judgment again and a little bit more of your performance. And again, kind of going back to some of the reviews, a lot of people have said, and it's something which I picked up on, is that in the kind of performance and this new Pinhead, is and I thought it was great. This isn't something which I picked up as like something which I had an issue with, because I thought it was really good. But the fact that he sat there on this throne with his head in his hands, he seems bored.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really good, because it showed to me what was set up at the start of the film.
Yeah. I mean, when those bells aren't tolling, when that puzzle box isn't being solved, what is Pinhead doing? Well, he has nothing to do, and I frankly, I wasn't playing boredom, but how do you play boredom?
Well, yeah.
But if it looks that way, it's fine. I mean, in my mind, he's listening. He's sitting and he's listening. He may be playing with his pins. I mean, I read that part of the script the first time. I was like, that's really cool. He doesn't speak. He's alone. He's just sitting there listening. I mean, that's never happened in a Hellraiser film before. So it sort of showed us a new aspect of Pinhead, which I loved. And in the script, actually, originally, what's written is is listening to the screams of torture
Oh,
and
God.
enjoying himself. I'm not sure that you hear that
No, you
in the
don't.
film.
Why?
And that may have been editing. If the screaming had been louder, I mean, I had a little smirk on my face. Perhaps I didn't make the smirk big enough through the makeup.
No, see that.
But I'm actually enjoying myself.
See, that is like a true revelation. Quite frankly, I know pun intended to the to the last film.
Yeah.
But no, that's a revelation, because if I didn't hear any screams, but if there were, that would have added so much more context to to a scene that some people have an issue with, but that would have added an awful lot more context. That's such a shame that it's not actually in the film.
I know.
Oh,
and I've even been quoted as saying, like two people I've interviewed with have put out columns saying that Paul T. Taylor says Pinhead is bored in Hellraiser Judgment. I'm like, well, that word may have come out, but I think mostly what I was going with was, it's boring as hell here because when nothing's happening, because I'm not out in the world giving people their experience. I mean, and that's kind of the point of the whole beginning of the film is like, this box isn't working anymore. We got to come up with something else because people can sate their desires electronically. They don't need this. So, but also with the time, 30 years, eternity, whatever it is, you grow, you may grow older, and you may grow a bit over it, just a bit jaded, and just is that all there is? Can something happen, please? So I don't think bored is the only word that Pinhead is when he's sitting there. I think he's actually enjoying the sounds, but as you said, it may just not be loud enough for people to get that.
Yeah, see, I genuinely didn't hear any. I put it down as kind of bored, but also in contemplation and thought as well.
Yeah. There is that. It's like, exactly.
So, I mean, back to kind of the role. Well, not back to the role. We're talking about the role of Pinhead anyway. How long did it take to put the makeup on?
About 2 hours.
See, they've perfected that then, because it was a lot longer for...
Yeah, they have perfected it. I actually had a talk with Gary the other night about this, because I wanted to get the details right, because people have been asking me that at conventions for 2 years, and I didn't have the story right. I didn't know.
Got an exclusive here, like that.
The guy who applied my makeup, and he was going for... I guess it's a tradition in the Hellraiser Pinhead makeup world to go for a world record. But Gary got it down to 69 minutes from nothing to camera ready.
Oh, wow.
Because he's applied the prosthetics over 80 times, around 80 times over the years that he's done Pinhead's makeup. So nobody's going to beat that record. But Mike tried, and he got it down to 2 hours.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I mean, if he'd hurried more, it would have looked bad. So they weren't going to sacrifice. He wasn't going to sacrifice that, fortunately.
And when that kind of first time that you wore the whole kind of Pinhead attire, did you get a chance to look in the mirror? What did you think if?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I before I put on the costume, my makeup was finished 30-45 minutes before. I went to my trailer and just sat in my trailer, dimly lit, which was good, and just stared at myself in the mirror and saw what the makeup could do. Took some selfies, which I had never shared.
Of course.
Of course, we weren't supposed to have cameras on set, so I went, well, these are just for me. That none of those are anywhere except in my phone. So we're in a cloud somewhere, I believe. So I got to do that, and I knew that from reading interviews with Mr. Bradley, that's what he had been able to do too. And it's so transformative to look like that. You let the makeup do the work, and it actually makes it easier to be scary when you look like that, and you don't have to work as hard, which I already knew from my theatrical experiences, playing scary people with creepy makeup or no makeup. That, if you look scary, if people know you're scary already or threatening, then you don't have to work as hard because you already have that power. The same rule applies for comedy. Anyway, less is more always. And the makeup actually, because I'm a theater actor and I've even done some musical theater in my life and children's theater plus dramas and comedies and whatever. Theater's obviously bigger because your audience is further away from you than a camera. So to be subtle in film work is so important, and the makeup actually helped me with that because it's already toned down my face because my face is completely covered. So how much do you move? And then the contact lenses, and you actually see very little of Paul T. Taylor, except my ears. My ears were not covered. So yeah.
And what were your kind of your thoughts when you saw the whole the complete outfit? What was your initial kind of reaction?
It was the best Halloween costume I'd ever worn, and I've worn some pretty damn fine Halloween costumes that I, created myself. It was surreal because it was just, I was a monster, and then when I walked through the doors into the warehouse where we were filming the show, those doors opened and there were some crew members standing around, and I just walked in and I heard audible gasps and a couple of people, oh my God, and I was like, I'm here. I've
arrived.
I am he. I didn't look at anyone. I'm like, yes, I am a freaking badass demon, and you better not mess with me. And first scenes we shot were on the throne, which was awesome for me because Gary said we're just going to start slow. We're going to do these scenes first, and then in a couple days we'll do the big showdown. Of course, it was so amazing, and I knew I had the support of everyone there. When you're doing a thing like that and you're replacing an actor who's famous for creating this horror icon because he's fantastic, you may worry that people are gonna judge you because you're not up to snuff or whatever. But there was so much support on that set. It was everybody. You don't go to a film set going, let's make a really bad movie. You're doing your best to make a great movie, and everyone was just wonderful. And like, you are Pinhead now. Okay, I'm the guy. Don't call me Pinhead. I will kill you. I'm a priest. I'm the Pope of Pain. Honestly. But
Pope of
yeah,
Pain. Brilliant.
It's just the coolest. I say this every time someone asks me. It's the coolest thing that's ever happened to me.
So I guess
the best opportunity I've ever had.
Well, I mean, you've literally just answered my kind of next question. Is that the overall experience was just all positive? Then I would assume.
Oh yeah. It's the biggest thing I've ever done. It's the biggest break I've ever had. And after 30 plus years in the business, you're living in Dallas, Texas, doing theater work and a few films, some commercials, maybe a TV series spot once in a while with, playing a role that has 2 lines. And then you get this opportunity.
Yeah.
It's like all of those years have paid off now. I mean, granted, I love doing theater and I love working on film sets, but like with theater, it's all live. You get rewarded as you're doing it because it's that conversation with the audience and it's give and take and it's alive. And then when it's over and you move on. My life as an artist has been so fulfilling, and I'm so glad that I was stubborn and never, caved into getting a full-time job. I'm too stubborn for that. I refuse to be unhappy doing something if I can do something about it. So it's all good. I'm so grateful because of where I've been with the lows in my life and with the bad health and then getting my health back and blah, 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 and the self-destructive behavior I had when I was a kid and all that stuff. It's amazing how all of that experience can lead to something as wonderful as getting to play this role. And it's so crazy too, because shortly after I got the part, a friend of mine, a long respected friend of mine, he's such a fine actor. When I first moved to Dallas, I auditioned for a production of the Rocky Horror Show. I wasn't in the union yet. I'd done one show, I think, in Dallas, and I auditioned for this role. It was in the 80s, and I didn't get the role of Frankenfurter, but I got one of the Transylvanians. I was in the chorus, basically, and I started earning my equity points so I could eventually join the union. Anyway, this guy was Frankenfurter. His name's Kurt Rhodes. He's just such a great guy, and he was like, it's weird because he's not that much older than I am, but he and his wife, Nance Williamson, they were like parent figures to me because they were these professionals. She was playing Janet, he was playing Frankenfurter, and anyway, sorry, that just went off on that. He sent me this text when I first got the part, and he said, "Congratulations on your instant cult status." And that just blew my mind because that's terrifying and yet so wonderful. And I know a lot of fans might hear that and they'll go, "Oh man, Paul T. Taylor's ego is huge. He thinks he's a cult star." I'm like, no, I'm grateful. This is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me.
I've not caught a sense of ego at all. More just kind of humble, just humble kind of thanks more than anything from kind of chit chatting with you. It's not. Yeah, there's no case of ego there.
If it had come earlier in my life, like before I'd been through what I've been through, anyway, I don't think I would have been ready for it, and I think that I wouldn't have been able to handle it. I'm already having enough sort of, not trouble, but it's difficult sometimes for me to handle the celebrity and how people can be so cruel and thoughtless, and yet most of the people, it's wonderful, but a lot of it is just like, oh my God, I got to turn all of this off now and just go outside and put my feet on the earth and reconnect with something, because it's just also so weird and temporary, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this is not, I'm not going to draw a parallel to it, but I can kind of sympathize or empathize a little bit, because, you know, obviously I get nice comments and I get bad comments and, you know, some downright disgusting comments, you know, on my channel, and you know, it's the nice stuff that really kind of stands out and makes you put all the kind of negative stuff to one side and go, actually, no, this is kind of why I do it, and you know, this is why I appreciate being in the kind of position I am, and you know, I kind of empathize a little bit with that, definitely.
I think you have to do that, otherwise you're shortening your own life, because you're giving into the negative, and it's like, nope, you are not going to take me there. You are a total stranger. Total strangers. You cannot make me feel bad. I will not allow it. You know, I have the power. I auditioned for this part. I got this part. I played Pinhead. No one can take that fact away from me. And they can, you know, say that I'm arrogant or my ego or whatever, I'm an asshole, whatever. At this point, I don't care, because I know the truth. I am not arrogant. I am not an asshole. And I am just so grateful to be in this position that, you know, and that's maturity. That's your own, that's your soul learning things or whatever.
Well, it comes from experience, doesn't it? You know, being able to kind of... Yeah,
and knowing that it's going to shorten your life if you get into the negative. I've done enough negative self-talk in my life, you know, decades of it, that I know that's not healthy. Your brain, your body listens to what your brain is telling it about how horrible, what a terrible person you are, and anger and all that stuff. It's like, oh man, just no. It's like, you are not allowed to do that. No.
So, I mean, speaking about the role that you've now got, or should I say, you know, had, and the experience that you're having now, I mean, I know this because I asked you, but you're getting kind of interview requests kind of left, right, and center at the moment, aren't you? How's that all kind of going?
Yeah, I really am. I am, and it's a bit overwhelming. I need a secretary because I'm not. I'm not that organized of a person. Ask my tax attorney. I'm just not that organized. So I'm just trying to keep it all straight. But I welcome all of it because this is now, and this is This is the opportunity to gain as much attention for the film as I possibly can, because it's not going to last forever. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and you don't know who people are. You don't know who people are when they present themselves. You don't know how old they are. It's like, I'm 12 and I have a YouTube channel. You know, like, okay, sure I will. I have 3 followers. Okay, sure. Let me take 30 minutes out of my day talk to you.
Well, look, Paul, I wasn't going to say this, Paul, but really, I'm actually 9 years old. I know the voice is deceptive, but you know, really.
Wow. You were the parent. You were the offspring of giants.
Oh, jeez. Right, so I mean, look, you know, I've taken enough time out of your day. I will kind of wrap this up now. But what if you could say to kind of anyone that maybe hasn't seen the film but is still, you know, listening to the interview, you know, if you could kind of say anything to them, what would you say? I guess to kind of pivot them towards watching the film, I guess.
I would just say this is, if you're a hardcore fan, you can go in to see this film with open eyes. You know, you can rent it pretty darn cheaply, and it's not gonna, you know, cost you. You don't even have to pay for a theater ticket. And just look at it for what it is. Then you might actually find yourself, you know, enjoying it. I think that the new ideas it presents are fantastic, and that, you know, everyone should give it a shot. Now, if you've never seen a Hellraiser film before, then you might want to visit Hellraiser 1 and 2 first. It doesn't matter. I mean, a little explanation of the box is all I'm talking about. You know, Pinhead's history, and I think that might be valuable. But it's an introduction into a world that is, you know, it's so fantastic, and it's still unlike any other film, any other franchise that I can think of. Hellraiser Judgment is still, it's a standalone film. Knowing a little of the history might help, but yeah.
So
that's what I would say.
I would share that as well. Actually, I would echo that definitely. Even as a hardcore fan, go in with kind of open eyes, and if you hadn't seen it or hadn't seen any of the kind of Hellraiser series at all, maybe watch the first one just so you can get an idea of what the box is, which is kind of important. Obviously, it's important to kind of know the shift to what this movie is doing. But as a hardcore fan, and I am a massively hardcore fan, you know, I've devoted lots of time to making videos, you know, writing lots and lots of stuff about the series. Right. So, you know, even as a hardcore fan, you really can like this movie, but you have to take it for what it is rather than a massive comparison to the previous ones. That's what I would say.
Right.
You know, from my perspective. But yeah, Paul, thank you so much for your time, and you know, actually agreed to do this on my humble little channel. I know my subscribers would really appreciate this. So yeah, thank you so much.
You are absolutely welcome, Mr. H.
Right, guys, if you've made it this far, this is obviously recorded after the fact, and I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone for tuning in to this special one-off interview, and obviously I just want to extend my thanks to Paul T. Taylor for agreeing to be interviewed by me on my humble little channel. So that being said, if you enjoyed this interview, please give it a big thumbs up, share it on all of your various social medias. You can give me a follow on social media at Twitter and Instagram at Mr. H Reviews. And you can also go follow Paul T. Taylor himself at Popo Herman. And again, massive thank you. Please hit that subscribe button for more Hellraiser related content in the future. Leave your comments down below if you have any on the interview, kind of your thoughts on how it went. And maybe if you want to see me interview people in the future. I know it's not really my forte, but you may want me to reach out to someone else. So that being said, thank you once again. Hit that subscribe button. And as always, I've been Mr. H, and I will catch you in the comment section.